Welcome. Good evening. My name is Phil. This is Leicester Fan TV. It is 7 o'clock on Thursday night, and we've got another special night to have a little chat with Conrad Logan, ex-Leicester City keeper, was with Leicester from 2005 to about 2015. So a long stint at Leicester. Didn't make loads of appearances, but made some interesting ones. And he is going to be with us any moment. So get your questions in. Get your comments in as ever. I can get them on screen and we can have a good old chat with Conrad. So this is the Leicester Fan TV show with Conrad Logan. Yes, good evening. Thank you, everybody who is watching. Let's get a few hellos in there. Good evening to Matty Bond. How are you, Matty? Hope you're keeping safe, staying indoors as best as possible, and fit and healthy. Andrew is watching. Thanks for watching, Andrew. What would you like to ask Conrad Logan? Let us know what questions you want. Dave wants to know. He wants to ask, do you think Coutinho will come to City? Well, perhaps we'll ask Conrad that. Do you think a player like Coutinho could come to Leicester? Who knows? Well, get whatever questions you want into Conrad Logan. And here to bring him into the show is Jamie from the Fox's Arms. Hi, Jamie. How are you?
Evening. How the devil is everyone? Hope we're all well and good.
Very good, Jamie. So come on then, without too much further ado, introduce us to, I think we all know Conrad Logan, but give him the big up.
I'll give him the big up. Right. Conrad signed on the youth team in July of 03. And then he signed professional in 05 and he left us in May of 2015, just before the Premier League season, the winning Premier League season. He played 30 games. And he didn't play that many because being the life of a keeper, it's hard to get a regular start as keeper. He had 7 loans, but one of his best spells was he signed for Hibs just after he left for Leicester. And his debut was in the semi-final of their Scottish Cup. I'm not sure whether it was the League Cup or their FA Cup, but one of the two. And he saved 2 penalties in the penalty shootout and got them through to the final. And then he went on to win the final as well, which is pretty good at penalty stops because in one of his games, he actually played at Middlesbrough and he saved a penalty against Middlesbrough for Leicester. And
I've got that, Jamie.
Have you? Let's have a look at it, shall we?
Come on, let's have a look. This is Conrad Logan. This is at the Walkers.
Yay!
There you go.
And he saved the rebound as well.
He did indeed. So there we go.
We ought to bring him in on that note.
Let's bring him in. We've got Conrad Logan and Lee Chappers as well to join us.
Yay.
Hello, guys. How are we? How are you, Conrad?
How are you guys? You all right?
We're good. We're good.
Jamie, start us off with a question.
Yes. Good.
My first question is going back a few. What was Sven like? You were there when Sven was there. So how did Sven treat his keepers and his players when he was there? And did he teach you all his like womanizing tricks while he was there? Because he was a bit of a ladies' man, weren't he?
I didn't get any of that.
Oh God! What?
Try again, Jamie. Jamie,
right,
Conrad, if you didn't hear, I'm going to say one of the managers. One of the questions I want to ask you is one of the managers you trained under Conrad was Sven-Göran Eriksson. How did you feel? How did you feel he was as a manager? Because he was obviously a massive name when he came into Leicester to take over the club. One of the biggest name managers Leicester City ever had.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the status of getting someone like that into the club at the time was a massive pull for the club and probably showed the sort of way that the club was going at the time. I mean, as a man manager, absolutely fantastic. I mean, as a coach, he probably didn't do a lot of coaching on a day-to-day basis. It was Derek Fazakli as assistant who done most of the coaching. Well, I mean, the way that he brought bigger names to the club, and the way that he was as a person was fantastic, and someone that was really good to work under, and especially, you know, the sort of career that he had previous to coming to Leicester.
Lee?
Yeah, I've got a question for Conrad, because he's been through technically half of 2 different decades, including the Milan Mandaric ownership of Leicester City, and then the King Power brand. What was the difference, and what happened when Vishay and the King Power took over with the club? What was what was it like?
Yeah, I mean, it was a massive change. I think you see sort of the way that the club has gone since King Power have come in. I mean, I suppose it was things just before that when we were floating in the Championship and we dropped down to League One, and the club wasn't in a great sort of position at that time. And I think it was crying out for someone maybe with the funds that King Power had and the sort of commitment that they had to a club to come in at that time. And I think, it was a slowly approach from them. They brought obviously Sven as a big name. It didn't work straight away, but over time now we're sort of, the club has moved forward massively, big steps. But I mean, I suppose the way football is at the moment, if you want to get to the sort of stature as a club that Leicester have now, you've got to have that backing. And I suppose before, probably the managers or the chairman, that were at the club probably didn't have the money, the funds, and the infrastructure that the club needed.
I mean, Conrad, it was a massive journey you were part of from that 2005 right up till the Greatest Escape season, wasn't it? That you were part of. How did you feel? Those 10 years. What were some of the highlights as being part of that journey?
I mean, the one I think really was when obviously we got promoted from the Championship up to the Premier League. That was a massive step. I mean, there was highs and lows on the way. It's a long old trip. As you say, probably 10 years in and around the first team there. But I think that's when we obviously a couple of seasons previous to that with the Cardiff playoff semi-final, with the Watford playoff semi-final, we were sort of we were nearly men at that stage.
Yeah,
we were nearly men at that stage.
What was the Leicester camp like with losing to Watford on such circumstances? Were you all down about it, or was it just pick up and let's go and crack on?
I mean, initially it was obviously a sucker punch again, wasn't it? I mean, the Cardiff one a couple of years previous to that, when you think you're so close. That was our first sort of sniff at getting back up to the Premier League again from being probably in the Championship for quite a few years. So that was the first one. Then you get another chance with the Watford one. The way that season ended, the actual season itself, we had a terrible run really from January through to the end of the season. But to get in the playoffs and then think, you're so close, it was, the raw emotion after it was obviously, as you can imagine, it was probably something that none of us experienced as players and probably none of us really experienced as fans, being such the way it went, the penalty at the other end, you're right. But I mean, straight after, it was incredible. The next season, when everyone came back for pre-season, there was a defiance. It was like, right, we've been so close on this couple of occasions. We know what we need to do. We've got to get over the line. And we just, that was brushed to the side. There wasn't any talk of it as soon as we came back in the next season. Swept to the side, pretty much the same team, again, and bang, all guns blazing. And we really romped the league pretty much the next season.
I've got a nice question here from one of the fans, Conrad, who's watching. Chris asks, who was the best character during your career at Leicester, causing antics in the dressing room throughout your career? Because, Conrad, you must have, I got no idea how many different players you played with in the squads in that 10 years, but it must have been quite a lot in that time. So who was one of the best characters in the dressing room?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I suppose going back to when I was a young lad, sort of training and in and around the first team, there was old school characters back in that day. You had your Matt Elliott, your Jerry Tygarts, Tim Flowers, Savage, proper old school pros. I mean, I suppose, in recent times, I'd probably say, the Joker's probably the Jamie Vardy's probably, of nowadays in the last few years that I was there, But I mean, I think football's probably changed a little bit to probably some of the antics that happened when I first came to the club, talking about some of the lads that were there wouldn't be allowed these days. So, that's the way life rolls, isn't it? But, you've got to have big characters. There's a few jokers here and there, but if you're going to be in successful teams, you need massive characters. And I think, in recent years, Leicester have been full of them, really.
Do you think in that 10 years, Conrad, you can definitely see how football has changed in a big way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as I say, when I'm using the lads as examples, Matt Elliott's, Jerry Taggart's, they were Premier League footballers for quite a number of years at that time, and that was the sort of type of footballer there was. But they were all big characters, strong lads, strong individuals. And I mean, now it's probably a little bit different. You've got so much social media. You've got people. Everyone's got their little pennies worth to have a go at players on social media. You've got to be so careful. You go out and about, but listen, that's, I suppose, at the top end that the lads are playing at now. That's sort of, you've got to take that in the chin. There's a lot of money in the game. There's a lot of bits and bobs in it. So I mean, everyone, it has changed, and I suppose technology's probably been one of the biggest changes in it, that everyone can feel probably in a good way a little bit closer to players and teams.
Jamie, let's see if, can you ask a question? See if Conrad can hear you.
Conrad, can you hear me?
Yeah, I've got you, buddy. I've got you now.
Oh, that's all right then. That's of all the time you're in Leicester, who was the best manager in Leicester in your 10 years at Leicester? Who was the best manager while you were there?
You're nicking my questions here, Jamie.
Sorry, Lee.
Nigel Pearson, without a doubt. I think the best manager I've worked under. I mean, his time at Leicester, I suppose, looking and what he'd done. I mean, League One, bang, straight away out of that. Championship, a couple of near misses in that, up to the Premier League, and then the team that won the Premier League was pretty much assembled by himself. And I'm not just talking his successes. I'm just talking the way that he ran the club, the way that he put the infrastructure that the club's got now. I think a lot of that was from him, the impetus that he brought at that time. And I think, myself now being a little bit older and looking at from a player and even from a coach's point of view, looking at what he done, the way that he, designated staff to do certain things, and, just everything he had, the fine details of what was required to be a successful manager. I think he had an abundance, and I think you can see it now, the job that he's obviously doing at Watford as well.
Yeah, I've got a question for you, Conrad. Throughout the term of your Leicester career, 10 years, who would you say was the most talented that you were partnered with at any point? Riyad Mahrez?
I suppose I would think so. Skillful, if you're looking for a flair player and a player that can do something out of the ordinary, a match winner. Yes, I mean, there's been a lot of good players, a lot of solid players, a lot of players that, probably in certain positions are fantastic and probably some of the best in the Premier League and maybe the best in the world, might not get the credit they deserve because of the position they play. I suppose everyone's looking for a flary type of player. So I would probably think Riyad on that one.
I've got a question here for you, Conrad, from one of the fans. And there's been a lot of questions on this in various forms. Mark's saying about top tips, which we'll come on to. But the question I wanted to ask you was from Scooby Baz. And a lot of fans, Conrad, want to say, because you did go out on loan while you're at Leicester, do you feel like you were given a fair crack of the whip? Did you feel like you could have ended up with more caps, more appearances for Leicester?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, look, coming to the club as a 15-year-old, as a schoolboy, not even a YT, I think, the dream was to play Premier League, professional football, and to do that with a club that I came through the youth system was something that I was very proud of. But yeah, look, there's no sob story. I would love to have played more games, but I mean. Yeah. At the time I was at the club, I've probably had, I don't know, not counting, but I could have had 10 plus managers over that time. And I was sort of in and out of the team. I managed, Rob Kelly gave him a debut, managed to play a few games under him as a young boy at 19, 20. And then Nigel Worthington came in, played a few games under him. And then I think if you look at probably where the club was after that, there were so many players, so many goalkeepers, so many different things happening at the club. And it was probably until probably Nigel came back again that I was back at the club as probably a number two. At that stage, Kasper was at the club, who is one of the best in the world. So look, to be at a club and to do what I'd done from a youth team player to get and play for the first team, as I say, is something I'm proud of. And
Definitely.
Yes, I would have loved to play more games, but I did get games. If I wasn't playing, I was lucky enough I was able to go out and loan, and then maybe a new manager would come back in, and I would be back in the fold again. If it wasn't happening, I could go out and loan. So I still gathered up quite a few games under my belt. But yeah, it'd be nice to play more, but that's how it is.
Do you feel that you took part in this of Leicester actually winning the league? I know you weren't part of the team and you weren't here, but you were here for 10 years. Do you feel like you was kind of a part of the lead up to this?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was there every year apart from it, really.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
But did you celebrate as well with the players and stuff?
Absolutely. Look, it was a strange time that. So technically, my contract was up in May 15, but actually from the December 14, I was out for 18 months. So I snapped my Achilles in December 14, and I was out. So I was rehabbing at the club, even pretty much up until the March of the year that the lads won the league. So I wasn't actually signed to the club. I was just getting rehab from the physio. So I was in the club pretty much every day that the lads were on this run. So it was nice to be involved and seeing how they handled it. From being up near the top of the league to all of a sudden thinking we could actually maybe go and win this. After Christmas or whatever. So, but yeah, again, look, I wasn't involved in it. I take no part in that. But it was an incredible journey, and it was something I was really proud and really happy to see the lads do, because as I say, the season before, probably 95% of the lads that actually won the league was part of the Great Escape and the championship team previous to that. So it was great times.
I've just put a comment on screen. Oh, sorry, Jamie. I was just
go on. You go, Phil.
No, you go, Jamie.
I was going to say, but after you not left, but after you finished your rehab, you must have had your best 2 or 3 months ever, because you went to Hibs and you actually won the Scottish League Cup, didn't you? And you made a big influence at Hibs. That must be one of your most special times playing football when you were at Hibs.
It was. Yeah, it was. I mean, on a personal point of view, that was incredible. Look, the 18 months that I was out injured was a tough time. I was out of contract. I had no club. Wasn't getting paid from probably the end of one season till pretty much 9 months probably, and I had to make a call. I was still doing my rehab. I probably still wasn't at a level that I wanted to be, but I had a chance to go and train. It was actually at Rochdale at the time. I went there for one day and then got a call to go up to Hibs. So yeah, for me, that 3 months, look, it turned out to be one of the best 3 months of my career, but it could quite easily have been the worst 3 months of my career if I went up there and I wasn't able to train or play and, still be without a club. But, on the plus side, it was fantastic scenes up there, and obviously coincided with the same time Leicester winning the league. So double bubble.
Yeah, congrats.
Conrad, one of the fans just put a question on, excuse me, about you were at the club for 10 years. You didn't have a testimonial. If one was to be arranged now, would you, the fans would love to give you a testimonial match at Leicester. Would that be something you'd come back for?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I was actually, realistically, I was probably at the club for 14 years, really, when you look at it from a 15-year-old boy coming over, nearly 15 years by the time I left. But I suppose when you look on testimonials, you look at people like probably Andy King, who's played hundreds and hundreds of games. So, I mean, it's probably, as we said, I haven't played as many games, but I've been part of a lot at the club, over the years that I was there. So, I mean, testimonials to club probably are normally classed as, legends that have been there and played hundreds and hundreds of games. But listen, if one came up, it would be fantastic. But, it hasn't so far, so I can't imagine it.
Well, maybe that's something. Jamie and Chappers, maybe that's something us fans need to start something off there for Conrad.
We'll get hashtag trending.
Start it on social media.
Testimonial for Conrad.
Yeah.
Conrad, somebody was asking about about training keepers, and I know just before we came live, that is something now you're very much still into, isn't it? Training the next generation of keepers. Tell us a little bit about what you've got going on locally as well.
Yeah, I mean, after sort of when I had my injury, it was a time where I probably looked like, could have played football again. You know, potentially the injury could have reoccurred, and that could have been it. So coaching was something I was always I always enjoyed. When I was at Leicester, I used to go in sometimes in the evenings and go and watch the academy goalkeepers train. It's something I always took an interest in. So I started doing my badges and I've got a goalkeeping academy now, which is open. It's at Reek Valley on a Thursday evening for 3 hours from sort of 7 to 18-year-olds. And we've been going over 2 years now. And we've got great numbers, and it's something I really enjoy. I mean, it's something different. You know, I feel like I've had a lot of experience over my time, and to give it back to the young lads and girls that come to me is fantastic. And to, you know, the pride of you playing as a professional footballer, it's a completely different pride when you see, you know, a young kid coming in and starting them on their journey. And the way the kids learn, you know, they're so quick and the development's so quick, and it's something, you know, I'd really enjoy.
Yeah, Phil, we should take my lad. He wants to be a goalkeeper. He's 7. We should take him, and we should go live on Leicester Fan TV.
We should do that. I mean, it is a very strange position in a way, keepers, Conrad, isn't it? They always say it takes a character to be a keeper.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's last line of defense, and you know, it's a fantastic position. You know, you can be the hero, but the amount of times that you are a hero is probably minimal compared to a striker who, you know, probably will score in a lot of games. And, you know, it can be the loneliest position if things aren't going well and you're getting blamed for a lot of things. Then, you know, mental strength's huge to be a goalkeeper. When you're going through a bad spell, or, you know, if things aren't quite working out. And even if you're going through a good spell, you're only one mistake away from being that idiot that dropped one in. So, you know, mental strength's huge, and that. So,
yeah, there's a question here by Mark Charles in the comments, and that's: who would you pick between Ian Walker, Tim Flowers, Casey Keller, or Kasper Schmeichel?
Well, I need to actually train with Casey Keller, so yeah. Casey Keller's out, unfortunately. I've never trained with him or was involved with him. But I mean, for unbelievable goalkeepers. I owe a lot to the first two, Tim Flowers and Ian Walker. Tim was my goalie coach and a player in the final year when I first came to the club, and Ian Walker. And, you know, I'll be forever grateful for the education that they gave me. I was 15 years old and I was in there training with them pretty much every day. And the basics and the skills that I learned from them are something that stood me in great stead throughout my career. And 2 England goalkeepers, and 2 of the best probably in the Premier League at certain times. So, you know, unbelievable. I mean, and as we were talking about earlier, the way football changed over the years, I think now, you know, they're completely different types of goalkeepers. You've got Kasper now, who's, you know, the modern day, as distribution is huge in the modern game, and especially the way that Leicester play, whereas probably it wasn't back, you know, 14, 15 years ago when them lads were playing. So, you know, the basics, the handling, the shot stop, and they had it all. They were fantastic at it. But, I mean, I think nowadays, you know, he's a different breed. He's an unbelievable goalkeeper. I think he is actually, you know, he's up there with the best in the world, definitely the best in the Premier League. And, you know, the training with him, watching him over 3 or 4 years we were together was phenomenal. You know, it's every single day, you know, he was on it. But, you know, the work that he put in, he's getting all the rewards for it over the last few seasons. Yeah. And, you know, he deserves all the credit that he gets.
Tom, thanks for joining us. Have you got a question for Conrad?
Yeah, Conrad, you've been at the club a long time. You've seen a lot of managers come and go. There's one member of staff, though, who joined the club and he's still at the club after a long period of time. That's Mike Stow. I just want your views on him and what he brings to that dressing room, and also as a goalkeeping coach to keep his position. Because as we see most of the time, when a manager goes, the back row staff go with him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was a massive part of my career, especially at the early stages. It was actually himself and Rob Kelly that were taken. I think Mike was first team coach, assistant manager at the time, and they gave me my league debut. So a massive part of the club. And then, as you say, he was there. Unfortunately, he actually left for a small space of time when Rob did go, but then obviously came back as a goalkeeping coach then. You know, and I mean, the way that, well, the amount of time that he's at the club under all the managers that he's worked for as well shows how good he is and how well respected he is within the club. He's been a massive part, and I think now the goalkeeping, the little knit community that they've got with Kasper and the other guys, it's up there. They've built a great setup. They've got some good young lads coming through as well, and it's all built through him. And I think it just shows you, if you stick with someone and give them a little run at things, how things can quickly progress. But massive part of my career and a massive part of Leicester City, and someone that's I think going to be there for a long time as well.
Congratulations, Tom, by the way.
Yes, congratulations, Tom.
Thanks, mate. Thank you. That's why I was a bit late. Little one decided to decide it was time to do something else.
I'm sure Conrad won't know, but Tom had a baby yesterday night, so not Tom personally.
No, Tom didn't. His wife did.
Congratulations, buddy.
Thanks, mate. Well. Appreciate it. Yeah, thank you very much. He's good. He's a good little lad.
Good.
Richard asked this. Oh, go on, Jamie.
No, you go on. No, I'm asking too many.
Just a quick one. Richard asks, how many times have you been sent off, Conrad? Have you ever been sent off, Conrad?
I have once.
What?
Come on,
I didn't know this.
Yeah, when it was. Yeah, it was a bit of a Dion Dublin Shea Given reenactment. Took a cross, dropped it, didn't see someone behind me, ran from behind me, and then instead of letting him score, I thought I'd pull him down and got sent off. So, and we won the game, so we done all right. It was worth doing, wasn't it?
Oh, that's not too bad, then, is it? No.
Nah.
What I was going to ask.
One of them things.
Yeah. What I was going to ask. We had Martin Allen on, the ex-Leicester manager. What was he like in pre-season? I know he was only there for a short time, but what was he like in pre-season? Was he as mad as what most people say he is?
Well, he was mad on the show, wasn't he, Jamie? He was mad.
He was, wasn't he? Yeah. He was bonkers.
Yeah, he's different.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
It was a bit of an eye-opener. I mean, listen, he had his ways. I mean, a massive character, as I'm sure you all know, and that's probably he probably had a lot of old school values. I think probably back from when he was playing and coming to management and brought them to the club. But that pre-season, I think we were in Scotland, I think, for that pre-season. And we got phone calls to our room at like 6:30 in the morning saying, you've got 5 minutes to get in the bus, we're going to training. And we go training and just do set pieces for 10 minutes maybe and come back the day of a game. And yeah, a few little random pieces. But it was a good guy, though. A good guy, a funny guy. And I think that was just sort of the reputation he has. He does a few little things off the cuff. And, I think at every club he's been to, he's renowned for doing that. So
we found that out Monday night.
So I've just got one quick question for Conrad. Nigel Pearson left the football club after the Cardiff game. The club brought in Sousa, who brought in a different breed of football to the club. Let's say the passing, what didn't really seem to suit the players. There was one game in particular that sadly you were in goal for, and that was the drumming by Portsmouth 6-1. I think you remember. What was the feeling between the players when he tried to change so much of what Nigel had brought into this team?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, it was a completely different way of playing. Sort of when we came back from my own point of view and as a goalkeeper's point of view, when we came back that pre-season, it was pretty much from the first day the balls were out. We were playing small-sided games. We were, Mike was a goalkeeping coach at the time. We were doing, just distribution straight away to try and get us up to speed with the way that he wanted to play. I suppose when you look back on it, that was, I don't know how many years ago, say 7 or 8 years ago or whatever, and the way that he was trying to play then is the way that probably everyone wants to play now. So maybe you might look at it and think he might have been ahead of his time, the way that probably from the continent that he wanted to play. But for him, and I suppose for any club, if that's the way you're going to play, then it's not just a one season sort of thing. It takes time. There's a lot of things that need to be done as players that need to be brought in to fit into that sort of system. And, maybe the way that we played the previous seasons and the players that we had in the club at the time, maybe it just wasn't the right fit at the right time.
I've got a question here from the True Fox. We're going to have to wrap up shortly, guys, but True Fox on YouTube asks, do you keep in contact with any of the current Leicester players still, Conrad?
Yeah, I do. I still speak to some of them. I'd say probably, I think Vards is probably the person I speak to most and see the most, families or friends and things like that. So, yeah, but I still speak to some of them and some of the lads that have obviously left the club as well. So we had some good times and, probably especially the last 3 or 4 years at the club, there was, it was the same group of players really. And obviously some of them are still there.
Brilliant. Thanks.
Sorry,
Go on,
Mark,
Tom.
Can I just ask one quick question? Oh, go on, Tom.
So I'm just going to ask Conrad. You're currently playing at Mansfield. It probably hasn't been the season I think what they wanted. I keep an eye on Mansfield as I think they're a great little club run by a very good chairman and owner, and seem to be trying to push in the right direction. Do you feel the season hasn't gone the way you wanted it to go this year with the players that are signed? Nicky Maynard came in. Seemed like you built a very good squad there.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, over the last probably 3 years, really, the money probably side of it that the club, the chairman's put into the club. I mean, I think a lot of people wanted the success, and for us not to have been promoted in the last 3 years, probably missing out in the playoffs last season, it was a close call. But as you say, Nicky Maynard's the name that stands out. He was top goal scorer last season and the player that everyone wanted. And we thought probably that's just what we needed to get us over the line. And unfortunately, that hasn't happened. But yeah, there's no hiding from the fact that it wasn't the season that everyone sort of envisaged, especially after such a close call last season.
Go on then, Jamie.
Right, one quick one.
Go on, Jamie. This is the last question, Jamie.
Okay, well,
No, don't matter. Lee. No, Lee. That's Lee. Lee can do it. Mine's not important.
This season, Conrad, how does it need to be finished? Does it need to be scrapped? Does it need to be finished till the end? Come on, what's your view?
I really don't know, and that's I'm not trying to sit in the fence on it, but I mean the way things is at the minute, it's changing daily. I mean, we're looking at Sky News and watching press conferences, and it's hard. If it goes on any longer than June, then it's looking less likely that it probably will. I mean, for the guys in the Premier League, for you guys, I think it probably does need to be finished. But then if you start looking sort of lower down where we were, I think a lot of clubs, if they've got to pay for, with not having people in the stadiums and behind closed doors games, then I think a lot of clubs, are potentially going to fold or go into administration. So I think it's a really tough one lower down. But I think probably the money and everything that's involved in the Premier League, I think that does need to be finished. But whatever stage that is, is anyone's guess.
Go on then, I'll let Jamie get his last quick question in.
No, it was one of the fans. It was Andrew that asked the question. Who do you actually support? You must have do you have a team that you follow?
Yeah, I mean, as a kid, I was obviously from back home, Celtic fan. So Celtic's my team that I followed. But I mean, I didn't really, to be honest, English teams that didn't really have any massive following over here. So when I was coming over, as I say, as a pup to Leicester 15, then you just embrace that, and that's the club that I look out for now more than anyone.
Good lad.
That was the right answer to end on.
Perfect answer.
Listen, thanks so much for joining us. We'll let you know when we've organised this testimonial that all the fans want to give you.
Perfect. I'll make sure I come.
Yes, that would be good.
And obviously play as well.
There's a back five here already.
All right, brilliant. Thanks, Conrad Logan, for joining us. That's been absolutely brilliant.
Thanks, Conrad.
Cheers, Conrad. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Keep safe and stay well. So that's Conrad. Thanks so much for him joining us, guys.
Oh, nice
it was brilliant to have him in here. So
nice chat. Great chat.
It was, and 10 years at the club, there's not many players nowadays can say they've played at a club and given that much service. He was just a bit unlucky that some of the keepers, I think, guys.
Yeah. One question we didn't ask him is what made him stay that long if he wasn't being picked?
Well, he was being picked from time to time, but, it was just, I suppose you just have to keep trying and you want to keep going and getting in, don't you? Yeah. Anyway, listen, guys, thanks, chappers, for joining us.
No, I enjoy it. I love this.
And thanks, Jamie, for sorting everything out tonight.
Cheers up, Spencer Pryor, Sunday morning, 10 o'clock.
Ooh.
Fantastic. And Tom, you best go and get some sleep if you've had a little baby.
Oh, mate, I know. It's going to be my first night at home as well, mate. So, yeah, I think they're setting the alarm for every 4 hours. I probably will be now, but hey, that's life. And I'll still come on here and do my bit, you know.
I just can't believe your missus has let you come on here tonight.
Mate, it was never going to be a no. I'll put my foot down.
Brilliant. All right. Thanks, everybody,
Cheers,
for joining
guys.
us.
See you guys.
Thanks, everybody, as well, who's
later.
been watching the streams. And thanks mostly, of course, to Conrad Logan for joining us. My name's Phil. This is Leicester Fan TV. Thanks for watching.